Hi, beautiful hearts. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a roundtable conversation with a powerhouse of speakers who are so thrilled to join us. They are deeply connected with the animals. This is their life work and pretty much life mission. We're going to learn all about that today, but I want to welcome my co-host, Lori Rayon, who is an animal and interspecies communicator and such a beautiful soul. And then we'll introduce our other speakers. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Loren. Here we are, co-creating this wonderful event. Welcome to all animal lovers, animal communicators, those with open hearts that have some little wisdom there and understanding of who the animals really are. They're so delighted. You can feel their warmth. They love to have us speak for them. And of course, they very much want to speak directly to you. So in our summit next weekend, we'll talk about that. And I know we all have processes and ways to share that you can better communicate with the animals and open your heart to that and receive their wisdom. We'll just start with my mantra, has been for many years, is the animals are the greater body of healers and teachers on our planet. So I rest my paw, Buddha. Welcome, welcome.
Welcome, everyone. If there's questions, please put them in our Zoom chat box, or if you're on our YouTube channel, we will be checking the YouTube Q&A as well. I want to just send a warm welcome to all the speakers who are with us. I'm going to go through Linda Shea. She has been working with Dolphin Healing, and it's a remarkable journey that she's been on. We'll meet her in just a moment. We also have Maya Kincaid, who is an animal and nature communicator. We're going to learn about her as a powerhouse animal communicator as well. Pia Horsley, thank you for joining us. This breadth of work is so tremendous. This is like an academy of leaders in animal communication. And Debbie Dement is here. She is a beautiful like a frequency healer with the animals. And this is amazing as well because she gives back to the animals and helps us soothe them. And Randy Weitenheimer is a beautiful quantum teacher and researcher, energy doctor, and his stories with animals. We're going to learn about that as well and how we can all communicate in this way if we take a moment to slow down, come into our hearts, and be present. So, with this, Linda, hi, can you share a little bit about yourself and why it is so important for us to communicate with the animals?
Thank you. Yeah, my journey. So my journey is with the dolphins, dolphin consciousness, whale consciousness, and actually the family of stars as well. That's the focus of my work. And the dolphins swam into my life at a time in my life that I was living in Sedona, the desert. I did not perceive having a dolphin relationship at all. I was a mountain and a land girl. I did love nature and animals, but it was more nature. And when the dolphins came into my life, I thought I was really happy. I was happy and healthy, single, living the life. And what I didn't know was how much healing I still had to do. I had no idea. But it was a very magical way that the dolphins came into my life. A close encounter with them here in Hawaii, where I live now. But after 2 days with the dolphins, and then I went back to the desert, they followed me home. And they've been with me ever since. And that became my path. It it's a non-human consciousness, as all animals are, a non-human consciousness. And I think we all know that the animal kingdom has not lost their connection with source. They haven't lost that. So whatever animal, whatever non-human, natural energy or being that comes into our lives, there are gifts there to bring us back home to self, to bring us back into alignment with our divinity. So the animals are such a huge part of that. And it's just going to be a blessing to hear from everybody how so many different paths that really have the same lead to the same place where we come home to self and back to our connection with source. So that's what I have to say.
Welcome. Welcome. I know your work with the dolphins has been instrumental in my life, Linda, and so many people.
Thank
Her
you.
connection to her dolphin, shall we say, her star beingness, her family in that way, and come through to speak on their behalf and to know them. And, you've absolutely changed my life over the years. And, we're co-authors in the book Dolphins and Whales Forever. I
Yes.
just am so elated that you're here with us. Thank
Oh,
you for
thank
coming.
you. And you know, Laura, you said you have a mantra. My mantra would be the very first teaching I received from the dolphins. Love heals, joy transforms.
Mm. Love heals, joy transforms.
Yeah.
We can
That
all
is
carry
worthy
that
of a
in our heart.
sticky note. Yes,
Yeah.
that is beautiful. Write that down, everyone.
Yeah. I mean,
No,
that's all I need. Love
yeah.
heals, transforms. That's it.
And this is time to be in joy, right? This
Mhm.
is time to be in joy. And Linda, your little giggle at the end there was so dolphin-like. It
Oh,
was a dolphin giggle. And so, wow, I can feel so buoyant right now. When we look
oh,
at the external world, there's so much that seems like everything's breaking down, broken governments, all this stuff. But this is what we come back to, and that is so rich and
yes.
so supportive on our journey.
Yes.
And again, it's the animals that bring us there.
Exactly.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Linda. So nice to
Yeah.
meet you here.
You're
Yay.
welcome. Thank you.
And we have Maya Kincaid as well, and she's going to be speaking on animal communication from doubt and confusion to clarity and confidence. Maya, you've been teaching this two-way communication with the animals since 1997. That is quite a record. Tell us why this is so important on your journey. Oh, and you're muted, Goddess.
There we go. Okay, great. Thanks everyone for being here and to our hosts. Yeah, so I began the communication for my own survival in a way, because being as a human being, I was feeling alone and like I didn't understand what the way humans thought, and I loved being with animals and I wanted to know what their secrets were. And so once I started communicating, my passion was to share with others that we can all do this. It's a part of who we are, and that it's quite so simple to communicate, and it brings us so much joy and peace of mind and wisdom to communicate. It's like being in an enlightened training camp, like so many beautiful lessons. And so I've been exploring and teaching, for all these years. And my passion was to get that out there that people can do this. And more people are discovering it. It's a very exciting time. And so now my passion is to help people to see how simple it is, because we tend to complicate it. And it's actually, we don't need to prepare to communicate, or we don't need to teach the animals how to do it. They are master communicators. They've been getting through to us, even if we didn't think we could do it. And so the idea is clearing away the confusion and just basically just starting jumping in. We're perfect as we are. They love us and appreciate us for who we are, however that is each moment. And we can just jump right in and communicate. And it transforms our lives and the lives of other human beings and the animals too. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity to share. And one last thing that I would love, my goal is for every animal to have their voice and all beings of nature as well. And I realized quite a long time ago that I couldn't do that on my own. And so everyone is a part of that, having that beautiful reality of being in communication with nature and what's possible for we humans through that. So it's important to me that people can just jump in and do it without any confusion and feel the satisfaction of being in communication and the kind of difference that it makes. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Maya.
Thank you,
We're so
Laura.
pleased you're with us.
Yes, and I love how it's not just animals, it's nature. And I am more of a tree person. I mean, I'm an animal person, but for some reason, trees speak to me. They call me. When one gets chopped down, I have to really center myself and feel the higher story. And I have now learned that there is reasons and that they've completed their journey. And now they're going to become a pencil or a piece of paper, something like this, or a piece of furniture or a place in nature where someone can sit down and ponder. So the trees have helped me heal as well. So this is not just animals, but nature. And nature is totally connected to source and never lost that connection either. So wonderful and beautiful. Okay. And we have Pia here, who is one of the most renowned animal communicators in the UK, a long record herself. So, Pia, thank you for joining us. And what is the single most important message that you can offer on the importance of communicating with animals, our pets and other animals?
Thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much, Laurie, for inviting me. I'm always in my happy place when I'm sharing space, talking about animal communication and interspecies communication with other people around the world that are doing the same. It's hard to call it work, isn't it? The same
Yeah.
mission, whatever we want to label it, it's just a space and time that we're in together, and it's the most beautiful way of being in the world. To answer your question, I just have to, I'm looking at Texas, who is one of my teachers who's now in spirit, and also I just better introduce Grace as well, who's snoozing behind me in her chair. The biggest message the animals have, Lauren, it's all about love. We could just come straight back to love. Love is the primary motivator, I think, for most people to learn animal communication and nature communication. And it's the superpower that helps us to connect with other aspects of nature, whatever they are. So love, I think, is the key.
I love that. Now, there's a question, and we may bring this up to everyone, but there is a moment of doubt that some may have doubt in what they're getting. How do you direct your clients and your people, your audience, how to trust what they're getting?
It's always the doubt, isn't it? It's always the self-doubt, and how to get over that. It's the biggest boundary that people find, however experienced they are. What I always advise people, and also when I'm mentoring people, not just my students, is to go back to the heart, because the self-doubt comes from the mind. It's questioning it. It comes from a lot of different motivations. That self-doubt, there's lots of different ways to work through those motivations in order to recenter in our heart space. But it's about returning to what's true, and that's that we are all connected across space and time, and that we can easily communicate with other aspects of nature, remembering that we are nature through the unconditional love. That energetic frequency just unites us. We're part of this unified field. And it's just a remembrance of coming back to that. So whenever we're freaking out, I always say, okay, let's return to the breath. Let's just calm down. Let's breathe through this, come back down into our heart center, and let's start again. Remembering that we are these invisible threads across the world. We are connected to every animal everywhere.
It's beautiful. So well said. Love is always the answer, and the animals to me are the epitome of that. In my world, the animals never leave what we call the love zone, which is where the solution energy is, unless there's some kind of abuse. They don't have any concept of fear or negativity of any kind unless there would be something that would damage their energy field, from a human, which
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to attract many of those to this summit. I think the people that are going to come and attend, and those of you that are listening now are dearly in love with the animals, which means there's a part of you that's dearly in love with you, or you wouldn't be able to express that. I loved what you said about the heart, Pia. A lot of the teachings that we share, not just as animal communicators, but as, metaphysical people or spiritual teachers, is the importance of being in the heart every day, as often or as long as you can be, and staying out of this analytical process, which is, undetermined, confusing. But there's always solution energy and wisdom in the heart. And I know that as we navigate to that and learn to do it, we can surrender fear. And I'm sitting here with my partner, Puda. She'll show herself in a minute, but it's basically fear is the absence of love. So if you feel fear or you feel anxiety, then we would just gently guide you to do some heart work and some breath work to come back to the heart where you can see the importance of that. Um, I'm just going to take a minute and address, if it's okay, this question in the chat room. I could give a very long answer, but a very short answer is, when someone transitions, whether it's a human or an animal in my world, and I did have a near-death experience in '94, so I have a personal experiences. It's always by divine design. There are no accident or random transitions or deaths. Everything is by divine design. It's all orchestrated through the eternal self, which I call the soul. Some people call it the I am presence. The animals have souls too. So when it's their time to go, sometimes it's difficult, just like when we lose, well, we don't really lose anybody, but if they would transition out of their physical body, we would miss them. I mean, that's natural. And there is a period of grief, and that's natural too. But when we speak to the animals, particularly those on the other side, they're celebrating and they're just joyous and they're happy. And they absolutely know, just as you probably do, if you think about it, when you come to Earth, there will be a ticket home. Nobody's really from here. Nobody's going to be staying here for long, long periods of time. However, many of us revisit often. There's always this circle of life. There's the contract, basically. I come to Earth, and we'll talk when I do my presentations about contracts, how animals seek out different people when they come in, sometimes returning or attempting to return to the same people they've loved before, but always with love, always with this open heart and the willingness to serve, no fear. So please don't think if one of your animals or any humans in your life has left that they have left you. They haven't left you. In fact, in a very real way, my partner's saying they can be with you more now than they could when they had a physical body. They can be with you 24/7 in their energy body. So if you want to feel that and experience that, we have to move into the heart to be able to connect to that true feeling of the heart. So, cancer or different ways that animals choose to leave the planet, often they're doing it to help us. And that's difficult to see when they first leave. It's very difficult to grasp that because we're still in our stuff, which is, ow, you left me. And we have to think back now to the circle of life. As we grow and evolve as spiritual being, everybody's involved in that circle of life. Everybody's coming, existing, and then they're going, and then they're coming back. So we should honor that. And Master Cat Put is sitting here saying, if you can celebrate when someone transitions, whether it's a dog or a cat or a human, you're on the right path. The celebration of life is really the best way we can serve them. And allow yourself to have a period of grief, but she would suggest no more than 2 weeks. A week would be better, where then you can move into the celebration of that experience and really begin to perhaps reap the rewards of the time you had in the physical. So I hope that's helpful, sweetheart, that typed in uh,
Yes,
the
that was
message.
for Laura. And we can all sense right now our loved ones and our pets who have crossed over. I can sense them right now. So beautiful. It's timeless, actually. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Lori.
Sure.
And so I want to introduce two more precious, beautiful hearts. Debbie Dement is someone who has learned how to use energy healing on the animals. Debbie, share with us a little bit about yourself and why you've dedicated your life to this.
Well, for myself, I started to communicate with the animals when I was a child. And so most of my animal communication is our natural, original version of being able to communicate. When you've got mothers, especially, will notice when you've got an infant, you're very tuned into. You're already getting all of the telepathy that you need from that infant. Little one moves and squeaks, and suddenly you get the idea or the imagery in your head. Oh, he needs his bottle. Oh, he needs change. Oh, there's already that initial connection there. When I was little, I was exceedingly talkative. My parents said that I learned how to talk extremely young, and then I just would not shut up. And so, in an effort to get some peace, my mother basically told me to do just that. Well, of course, I had animal friends all around me. And so, when I began to learn how to do the communication, it was because mom said to shut up. So, I closed my mouth. And what I didn't realize was it reinforced, and I kept practicing over and over how to go into my right brain. And so, what I'm going to be focusing on showing people how to do will be that you can access this very quickly, very easily. There's no need to do your meditations or what have you. You can have the experiences with the animals, even going on your daily walks. You'll begin to notice the more that you practice and play with this, because it is more of a game. And that's really what I approach it as. A lot of times we put so much pressure on ourselves, especially if we want to make sure that our loved ones that are in our lives, am I tending to my dog correctly? Is my cat happy with the food? Sometimes we can really stress ourselves out trying to get that answer from the loved ones that are right there. When if you're new to this, it may be easy to start off with something that is less daunting and you could care less. Maybe try talking to a bird that's coming closer to you on your morning walk. Walking through a pet store, perhaps a fish catches your eye in an aquarium. It'll begin with something small and not as daunting. You're not. This isn't life or death here. This is playing with it, because the more that you play with it, you'll begin to access the right side of your brain more. And that is exactly where, when in 2003, I learned hands-on shiatsu and was introduced to the meridians, which are rivers of energy that run in and around our body. I've got a plethora of information from my parents, being raised up, of course, very connected to the spiritual realms and psychic abilities and what have you. But whenever I took the course on how to do and balance a horse and rider, I began to realize that I could see the rivers of energy that were in and around the body of the animals. And so whenever I started to do that, all of my information from childhood started to come back to me, because I had shut it down whenever I was a teenager and a young adult in order to navigate our 3D world. It took me time to come back to this. And so the more that I played with it, of course, I get more feedback from them in and around their bodies, especially whenever I'm balancing the energy. And of course, as the other speakers have said, they're here with messages of love. They are here with messages of support. And they're trying to teach us to lighten up and to show us, as they have noticed, animals are very close to the source. And as Loren says, with the trees, and it's not just the trees, our favorite crystals will have this, everything that is around us, it vibrates. It has different frequencies and patterns. If it's in disharmony, of course, you're going to pick up on that. But there is a lot that we can get from our animal friends and our environment to go ahead and balance things. And as we come back into balance, we're going to remember our connection to source. And so the animal communication, thank you so much for showing up here, because as you step into this and you learn these different techniques from everybody, you'll be learning and gathering things that you'll resonate with. Maybe you'll resonate more with the heart center. Maybe you'll resonate more with the right brain, but you'll be gathering tools. I encourage you to play with this as we go forward, because every little bit's going to lead you right back to what you already knew, which is we are all connected to source. Very powerful.
Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you so much for having me here, Lori. I really appreciate it. And Loren, absolutely. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yes,
It's a
thank
joy.
you, Debbie. Thank you for being here. We're excited for everyone's presentation. And now we have Randy Weitenheimer. Some may be familiar with him on his quantum teachings and his Native American lessons and instructions and wisdom that he brings forward. But Randy, you've got remarkable communication skills with animals as well. Welcome, and tell us what you feel after you've listened to all of us. What do you feel is the most important thing that we should know?
Well, it's a joy to be able to talk to other people about this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not exactly a conversation starter in LA or New York or somewhere to say, so do you speak to your animals or do they speak to you? And there's a difference in that. And so I do energy work, quantum quantum energetic medicine is what I call it. It's a form of Chinese energetic medicine, which is a form of medical Qigong therapy. So there. And what that means is that the same protocols for a human, I have a whole set of protocols for animals. And it's amazing that they kind of know that and they will come up to me and they will accept whatever healing or efforts I give towards them. It's always like that. Um, People have been talking about how they got started. My grandfather, when I was about 8 years old, one day he got a dog, and I said, "What's his name?" And he goes, "Oswagon." And I said, "I don't know what that means." And he goes, "Well, ask him." And I go, "Well, I'm asking you." And he goes, "No, ask him, Oswagon." And I'm sure I'm butchering the German, but the idea that we would ask an animal a question, right? There's the first thing. And the second thing is that we would actually listen to see if we could come up with an answer. And really, that's the faculty that some people develop, all the people in this panel, they developed a ability to listen. And so when we're around animals, when we're around nature, trees will speak to you. I've talked about all this on other interviews. Um, but really, the only talent we have is to be able to listen in a way that that we understand. And one of the things I say is all animals speak English or Russian or Spanish. And,
They
and
do.
you don't go to a different country and you ask a question in a different language. It's not necessary. So I call it pan communication. All animals are capable of communicating every language on the earth and probably a few others. And so when you learn that, you actually get a sense of the expansive nature of consciousness and of life itself. So there.
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks, Randy. Wow. I love that you use the words energy medicine when you speak of animals. I
Yeah.
feel that that's important that people start to understand that the true, perhaps more cumulative and expansive medicine that we're moving into now is energy medicine, that we're learning to understand it and facilitate it and certainly learn how to navigate those realms from the animals as they're master energy healers. There's a lot of scientific data now, and I'm sure some of you know that. That's thank God it's being even published. Is the power of the cat. The cat lays on you, and they're near you or they purr. I read something the other day that said cats are the greatest cardiologists on the planet. Have you
Right.
ever had your cat come up and lay on your heart? I mean, does it occur to you that they're helping you heal your heart even if you didn't know there was a problem with your heart? So I can raise my hand on that. Just a few years ago, I had some little thing going on with a valve. And last time I had my heart tested was probably 2 years ago. And the doctor said, "Your heart's stronger than mine." And I said, "I can thank my cat." She lays right on my heart. They know they can lower your blood pressure, bone density, blood pressure, all of it. I mean, there's so many things. And dogs, same thing. They thank God they let them in the rest homes now in the hospitals, right? That these the great healers are finally able to interact with elderly people and with children and well, with all of us. So,
Yeah.
you know,
I have one more
yeah.
comment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. None of this is true as far as what we do because the legislature, like in Oklahoma, passed a law or tried to get it passed that forbid anybody to do energy work, chiropractic, or any kind of touch therapy on animals.
What?
So, yeah,
Huh.
this is a few years ago. Kind of went beyond the radar, And I just laughed because somebody said, well, are you concerned about it? Because they knew I work not on people, but animals too. And I said, all they have to do is drag me in court and prove that I talked to an animal or that I healed them or that did anything in an energetic manner that resulted in an increase in their well-being. And they're not going to do that because you can't prove it, right? But you can know that you have a connection and that your efforts are appreciated. So
Uh,
that's the way I look at it.
But in many ways now, we really have come to a place where when we receive communication from an animal, at least in my world, we can prove it. I can
Yes,
think of some
exactly.
different times when for example, I get asked to speak on different podcasts or radio shows. And way back in the day, even before this Puda, my partner now, was born, I was asked to speak on a radio show called Gnosis or Psychosis. And everybody around me, I was just new as an animal communicator. This was like, about 18 years ago, maybe no more than that, more like 20 years ago. They said they're going to try to debunk you
Oh,
and
yeah.
your communication with animals. And I looked at Puda and she said, how can they debunk love?
Yeah,
I'm just love. All I
exactly.
speak of is love. All I bring is love. Can you debunk love? Let's do the show, Mom. So long story short is there was two hosts on the show, and of course they were prepared for somebody that's sort of out there, to have on the show, and they had people in position to call in to ask questions because they didn't know if real people would call in and ask questions, right? So sure enough, there was the female host. She had somebody planted to call in. And when that person called in, she asked a question of Puda and myself. And Puda said, I don't really think we need to address that question. What I'd like to address is your boyfriend. Did you know your boyfriend's stealing money out of your purse? He's not a very good boyfriend. And then so the other girl that was interviewing us on the show, she said, I told you he wasn't good for you. I told you so. So then she went on to tell a story about the dog that belonged to the male host on the show. She said, you're feeding him hot dogs. That's horrible. And, he opens up the refrigerator when you're not home and he eats your junk food. She said, that's very disrespectful. He should have good food. If you can't give yourself good food, at least give him good food. So that's how she speaks. She just busts them open, like here it is. So, I mean, in just 5 minutes, she was able to prove information that I didn't have on the show because I'm a telepath and I could hear her words. So I think we need to hold that, in a place where when you hear an animal sense something, or you can take that sense that they give you in your heart and translate it into some kind of words, you should trust that because that will build your foundation to be able to communicate with them. Quite often they're humorous, they have a good sense of humor. Quite often they have information that it's not necessarily what you want to hear, but Puda says, I'm not going to, we have our own radio show now. People call in to talk to Puda and she says, I'm not going to tell you what you want to know. I'm going to tell you what you need to know.
Right. That's
And she
true.
does. Yeah. So it's a journey. It's a journey into consciousness, and the animals are here for so many reasons. And thank God they are. I wouldn't want to be on this planet one day without animals, you know, to help
Yeah.
me, teach me, advise me. Yeah.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
many
Okay.
stories. I know we all have them.
We all have stories. And so, first I want to say next weekend we're doing a beautiful event. All of these speakers and a few more will be with us on a 2-day virtual summit. And this is where we can learn some incredible skills, enhance our own experience with the animals, our own confidence in communication, looking back on our life, reflecting on our life, going, oh yeah, that was right. That helps build this strength that we have in our communication with animals. So I have just dropped a link in our Zoom room and also on our YouTube channel. Please check it out and join us. We're so excited. If you can't be there, everything will be recorded for immediate playback. And it's just a beautiful opportunity to immerse yourself in these teachings with some of the most magnificent, I'd say, top animal communicators that we have. So we are excited and we hope you are too. So I want to share because I see Laura's question here about losing her dog who had bone cancer. And it brings up a story that I have when I listen to my dog. So I'm going to share a story, and then I invite each of us to share a story that really hit home for each of us that made us go like, wow, this is totally real. And I know we have so many of them, but one of my favorites is my dog, Cooper. He's no longer on the planet, but Cooper was such a rambunctious flat coat retriever, a beautiful long-haired black Labrador, and he was kind of rambunctious. So he was given a diagnosis one day. He'd jumped off a ledge and he kind of winced. We took him to the doctor. We thought he had something wrong, and they did an X-ray. He was diagnosed with bone cancer. They said, this dog has cancer. That made our hearts very, very heavy. And we were pretty much accepting this diagnosis from this doctor. And I was out on the trail for a run with this dog, and he turned and looked at me. And I didn't hear, but I sensed, I got this idea. It was almost telepathic. I got this idea in my head. He said, Ho'oponopono. And I was like, what? He's like, charge my water. And I was like, wow. So I went home and I got a Nalgene bottle and I filled it with water and I put love notes on the water. Thank you, Masaru Emoto. And I put the Ho'oponopono, thank you, I love you, please forgive me, I'm sorry. But on the other side, I put pure love, vibrant health. And I would put this jar of water in the sunny window every day, shake it before I would give it to him. And that was his water. That was his source of water. And a couple of months go by, and then something else happens to this dog. Even when we would take him to the doggy daycare, or when we would go away for a weekend, I told the caretakers, please use this water, just use this water. And so then the next time we make a visit to the doctor, he had a torn ACL in his knee. And then they do another research or another scan, MRI, and they said, this dog does not have cancer. This dog is perfectly healthy. And I attribute that to the charged water. And Lori, I know that you know so much about this, but this indication of the dog turning to me and almost on a telepathic level, receiving that information was such magic to me. And this dog lived another 8 years after this, a beautiful long life, who in the end we assisted him because he couldn't. We loved him so much. He was having a problem and we put him in diapers. Can you imagine a dog in diapers? We put the dog in diapers. And then a neighbor friend of mine said, are you doing this for yourself or your dog? And I realized I was doing it for myself because I loved him so much.
Right.
So when he could no longer get up, I got that message from him. So we helped him transition. We brought a doctor over and put flowers all around. And when he left, I toned. And now when I tone, he's here, he's around. So see how touching this is. But for me, it's tears of joy because it's always this connection and it's always a connection of love. So thank you for hearing my story. But it makes me so confident in this and the power of charging water and listening and letting go of our pets when it's time. So thank you. That's my sharing.
Isn't it great
So,
that you got that communication from him and you trusted it? That's a
and
perfect example of a
that's
lot of what our summit is about, is helping people just get to the place where they can really trust what they're hearing. Some people will hear in words, some people will get visions, some people will just get the gut feeling where there's some sentience there and you can kind of decipher it. But, they're communicating all the time. Master Cat Buddha reminds me all the time, all the animals are always talking. They're always in this quote unquote pod mind. Dogs talk to cats, cats talk to dolphins, dolphins talk to birds. They're all talking and they all know pretty much everything all the time, which explains things like how animals know how to go up on the mountain when the earthquake's coming, or, to escape before the fire ever starts. I mean, they know. I've often said, especially in the early years, I've said to my partner, who's a cat, I've said, how come I like to know everything all the time? Everything. There's anything I can't ask her. And she says, well, when you're not in human form, you know everything all the time too. God doesn't hide anything from anyone. You're having a human experience. And that brings me to my next statement, is the animals are here in a different place. I call it stewardship. They don't experience karma. They don't have a long line of many lives of history of this and this and this and then emotional trauma to clear and new gifts to bring in. They exist in this 100% sentience, 100% love story all the time, which is stewardship and support. Often it's directed towards a person or a family, but it's also directed to the planet. They are the love keepers, the earth keepers too. They know all the stuff all the time. And they do it. So, I mean, right now I'm sitting here looking at my partner. She's just sitting here quietly meditating, but yet she's journeying at the same time. She's in these multidimensional realms. She's radiating light and love to people all over the place, things that I don't necessarily understand as a human, but yet I know it's true. So when you think of karma and you think of what you've done in the past or you've done now and things that you want to clear, and you think of how the animals are here to help us, often health challenges are healed by the animal that would have come to you or did come to you. Meaning, let's say you have a heart problem or something, and then the animal takes on the heart issue, and then pretty soon the dog or the cat as well, or the horse, and then all of a sudden you go and you check and you're healed too. They helped you do that. They helped you because it's important to them to keep the souls that are in human form here longer because it's more challenging for us to reincarnate, right? And to grow up and learn everything. It's easier for them to take it on, even if they have to leave and come back, because they can help us in that way. And they do it with such joy. They do it with joy. They don't experience pain in the same way that we do. Often an animal could be in a severe situation, like maybe very ill, where you'd think they're in a lot of pain, and they just stepped out of their body. I mean, their spirit's just right here, and the body is here. So we don't have that ability, or at least most of us don't have that ability. So they're not experiencing a lot of pain or hardship. They're just hovering there, and they're going through the process in a way to help us. So maybe if you have an animal that's, had some health challenges or some people that have had, you can kind of connect the dots on that. And you can come into a place of gratitude to thank the animal for their support as you go through the health challenge.
Yes, really, really wonderful. Thank you for sharing that, Lori. Okay, so we're going to go around our panel and we're going to hear from each of you. Please share something, your most amazing story or something that stuck out in your mind. So we're going to go in the reverse. Randy, let's start with you. Do you have a story that is something of a miracle?
Well, I'll be sharing some of those next week. But
Mhm.
one of the things I figured out is that animals represent what I call a complementary consciousness. Okay. So those of us who are without, say, love or support or a lot of other things, they have the ability to fill that in. Okay. And it's something that mostly we don't recognize consciously. But if we did, we would start understanding that, like you were saying earlier, all animals communicate. We're the only ones left out of the conversation. So the one that came up with me is crows have a fascination with me, and they tend to follow me around. They tend to talk, and they tend to give me information. And people say, "Well, is there any practical information you come up with?" Well, when I travel, especially if I'm driving, crows will show up and cross my windshield or on the side of the road. And my question, remember how to ask the dog, I would ask them, what information do you have? And they'd go, well, there's a policeman over the hill. Right? And so I would slow down, go over the hill, and there's a police car, radar. And anyway, it's just on and on and on that they show up to communicate with us. Now, those are in the wild. Domestic wise, like I say, they're a complementary consciousness. And in the same way you would explore a relationship with another person, they're there for you to explore the relationship with them. And the biggest kind of like thing I learned, Dr. David Hawkins was giving a lecture one day about animals and spirits. And he said, well, somebody asked, they said, well, what's the purpose of animals in our life? And he refused to answer it. And so I talked to him later, and finally I came with my own answer. They are the observers of humanity. They are here to look at you. They are here to watch you, and they are here to record what they find out or understand or see or experience or feel or all the range of human existence they have too. It's just that they are there to be our companion. That's a good word. Um, because we seek companionship. And it's not something they tell you in grade school, like, I need a companion, okay? But they, even if you don't know it, they will show up on your doorstep. They do on mine all the time. Birds, cats, dogs, they come up, basically knock on the door, you know? And it's like, okay, what do you want, right? So when we understand the nature of human as being one that's lonely, we understand the fulfillment that comes from having an animal that is willing to be with us, just like another person. So that's what I learned.
Thank you, Randy. That's profound. Yeah.
Wonderful. We're looking forward to all these stories as well in our virtual summit. Thank you, Randy. Okay, Debbie, you're up next.
There we go. Okay. Well, I think very similar to what Randy was saying, that it is surprising how many of the wildlife, the birds, but I live on the Oregon coast, and so if I'm walking along the beach, it's not just the crows or the seagulls that will tend to come in very, very close, but oftentimes I'll have sea lions or the whales. Sometimes I will have various birds like the osprey that will swoop in. But the one I think that really stands out for me since we moved here was when we first moved to our farm. There were other horses that the previous owners had left behind. And the alpha boss mare, she was an extremely smart, she was one of the few energy horses that I had met in my life. So um, she was capable of manipulating energy. And so since she was the boss mare, she observed absolutely everything in and around. There was a gate that I had to navigate and fencing that I had to move after the man had left, and I had zero clue of how he had jerry rigged the thing. So I was staring at it, trying to figure out what the configuration was, how to pull this into an alignment. And Rainey came up behind me and she's like, "Oh, well, that's no big deal." And she could communicate very clearly. She sent the imagery to me of exactly what he had to do in order to get the fencing into place. And of course, it was very straightforward. She was a very clear communicator, and so it was a joy to communicate with her. She was very much an easygoing friend. She was always in my corner, and so it was an honor to have her in and around. And then at the same time, one of my favorite beginning stories was the fish that I had. I was working at a fish store, and I had, on a whim, walked past one of the saltwater tanks. And I looked at one of the fish and I noticed that it was looking at me funny. So I stopped in front of him and I asked, "With my mouth shut, can you hear me?" And the fish just went absolutely joyful. And he's like, "Yes, absolutely, I can hear you." And I'm like, whoa, mind blown. Because, like I said, at the time, I was a young adult. I had shut this down. I knew that I could do it. But obviously, whenever you're focused on, putting a roof over your head and taking care of the kids and what have you, you tend to go very 3D. And so I was very uh, shocked with the fact that he was so small and unintimidating, and the fact that he brought so much joy. He was just absolutely thrilled to be able to communicate. And so I had asked him to show me that he could really, truly, I needed proof, positive, and he was what's called a butterfly fish. What he did was he stuck his nose up out of the water and swam backward, which is not something that a fish normally does. And he was going above and beyond to prove, yes, yes, I can hear you. Yes, you're really getting this from me. And so I began to pay more attention. And so when you go to begin this, as you're hearing from the others, the animals are right here. They're very supportive. They are wanting to come forward with information for you. And especially their main thing is life is tough enough. We need to learn joy, and they're going to help to deliver that. The more that you can open up to it, definitely they're going to here to assist.
Beautiful. Thank you, Debbie. Wow. I'm gonna look at fish in a different way now. Even cockroaches. That's a big order, but even cockroaches. Okay.
Butter, butter, please. You can do butterflies or ladybugs.
Oh, yes, yes. I mean, insects. Wow. Okay, lots of stories coming up in my memories. I know I'm not the only one. Okay, Pia, let's hear your story. Is there one you want to share?
It's really hard to narrow it down, right? I've been listening to your stories and I'm like, oh my gosh, which one am I going to share? Because I've got a fish story, I've got whales and dolphin stories, I've got bears, I've got cat dogs, I've got a lot of stories. Um, and just before I do share a story, Laura and I used to do the same thing. I used to write, "You are loved" on a piece of paper and I used to put it under my dog's water bowl.
I love that.
And
Yeah.
just as he was, he needed extra support, I was doing everything I could. Yeah, it was interesting actually when he was transitioning just towards the end of his journey. He said, "I want you to write down your experience, just write down what's going on for you." So I used to write down, all the palliative care I used to do for him and the struggles daily and the 24/7 care. And and then he said, write down how it's going for me. And so I wrote down, it's like, gosh, this is two completely different stories. I'm all emotion and drama. And he's like, well, it's just practical, just pick me up and put me in front of my food bowl again. Or, okay, I've fallen over and I'm bleeding, just sort that out, patch me up and get me back on my feet again. And it was actually after he transitioned that he came to me. And in 30 minutes, he literally just gave me the book proposal. I wrote it all down, all the different chapters in this 30 minutes. And he said, "You're going to write that book." And so together we wrote this book about palliative care, end of life, the animal communicator's guide through life, loss, and love.
Wow.
But that's not my story. My story, I just want to go back to the beginning. Fly, you're talking about insects. Right at the beginning of my journey, which is back in 2004, I was communicating with somebody's cat in the back garden by a table with a parasol, and I'd finished that. And then this fly came and landed on my hand. And I thought, I wonder if I can communicate with insects. I wonder if I can communicate with this fly. This is how early on I was. And so I said, "If you can hear me, can you fly around this parasol, this umbrella, and come back and land on my hand?" And immediately as I finished that request, the fly left, went anti-clockwise around the parasol and came back and landed on my hand. And I said, "That's good. Can you do it again?" And again, went round the parasol anti-clockwise and came back and landed on my hand. And this time I said, "If you can do that one more time, I will never question that I can communicate with flies and insects and that you are intelligent beings and can clearly hear me and react to what I'm saying." And this fly, straight away, off my hand, round the parasol anti-clockwise again, came back to my hand, and I said, "Thank you." And then it just flew away.
Wow.
Message delivered. I don't support testing animals, but there was something just in that moment, and it was playful. It wasn't, serious. And this fly delivered, and I have found that actually, and I don't know if this is just for people that are doing this work professionally, that I have so many animals that support me and show me things and teach me ways and get me through blocks. And I feel like this fly was one of my master teachers, I would say.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
We're all connected, all of us.
Yeah.
And how many of us would just want to swat that fly with the fly swatter or shoo it away or be grossed out by it? This is expanding consciousness when we truly understand the interrelatedness and the communication ability with all things. Wonderful story, Pia. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
love that. Wow. Okay. And Maya, let's hear one of your favorite stories.
Sure, yeah, it is hard to choose. But I'm going to share a story of I was working with a client and talking with her dog, and I had talked with a number of her dogs before, but the dog said, I have something else I want to share, besides the topics of what the human was interested in. So we took care of that, but then the dog said, he said, I want you, my person, I want you to get another horse. And I didn't even know she had horses. But the dog said, I want you to get another horse because you have some dreams with the partnership with a horse that you have yet to fulfill. And it's important that you get on it, like get going with this. And so I shared it, and my client said, she was like, yeah, but I already have like 4 horses right now, and they're mostly retired show horses, and I can't afford, and I don't have the space, for another horse. And so then the dog said, well, at least consider it, just consider it. And so then a couple weeks later, I get a message from my client. She's all excited. She said, I found the perfect horse for my adventures. And she was so excited. And so then throughout the year, about a year's worth of time, she was sharing all the things that were going on and how this horse was just so perfect. And they just were like one together. And she was just so happy. And then I got a call one evening after about a year, and she was distraught. And she said, my horse just broke her leg. And she said she was just exercising her on a long rope, lunging her before she was going to ride her. And she was playing and bucking and jumping around. And she just came down and landed with the front leg. And she said the horse is being transported in an ambulance to the hospital. And and she said, I just want to find out. The vets already want to put her to sleep. And the horse, she said, please don't put me to sleep. She said, I have some miracles to show you. So she said, I promise I'm going to heal up really well. She said, I'm going to need surgery and I want you to go forward, with it. And so she arrived at the vet clinic. The vet, they did x-rays. She had broken her leg in a joint, like the past or joint in 17 places. It was like shattered, basically. And the vet said, I don't think we're doing any favors. He said, I'm willing to go forward, but it may not be such a great thing. This horse could, end up being lame and suffering, her whole life. And so, but the horse reminded again, my client asked me again to please check with her again. And she just said, please go forward. And so then she had the surgery. And sometimes the problem can be with the horse where they have a reaction afterwards, and they can't stand still. And it's just really hard. But she was an angel throughout the healing process. At one point, I got a call saying they had done x-rays. Oh, and she was lame. She was lame all of a sudden. And the vet said, I think that she's having the problems that we thought she may have. But it turned out the horse told me, no, I have a gravel, like a little stone had worked its way up in her hoof. That was what was causing the lameness. And so she said, I need my hoof to be soaked in like some Epsom salts, and then I'm going to be fine. And she was. And then she was able to go home and do hand walking. Her person would walk her. But after a little bit of time, one conversation, she said, I want you to tell my person that I want her to ride me. Instead of leading me, I want her to ride me. And so she started doing that. And then she was like, I want to trot, I want to canter. And eventually she wanted to start jumping again. And her person resisted, every time saying, I can't do that. But next thing you know, she called me, guess what? We're jumping. And people are just amazed at the miracle, that she is. And I think now it happened when she was like 3 or 4 years old, and she's like 18 years old now. Super healthy. She still gets ridden all the time,
Wow.
still jumping, and totally sound. She's not lame in any way. And it turned out to be a whole different adventure than what her person was expecting. But it's turned out to be where she's an ambassador in a way for horses, sharing what's possible. And it doesn't always work out that way, but this horse, she had those miracles to show us. Yeah.
Wow. Master healers.
Yes. Yep.
Wow, you saved a horse. Wow. As a little girl, I would be so distraught when I would hear like watching horse racing, and I'd be like, why do they have to put the horse down? Why? And
Yeah.
so, wow, you listened, and so did the doctor. And that is an amazing thing as well. Great. Thank
Yeah.
you for that story, Maya.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. And now, Linda, you've got amazing stories with the dolphins. Is there anything else that stands out that you'd like to share with us?
Oh my gosh, you all triggered memories, of course, of stuff. It's like, I'll tell that story. Okay, so there are two stories. My work is with the dolphins in consciousness, but of course I have had physical encounters with them too. So one I want to share is an encounter in the ocean, but another is an encounter that happened in the mountains. So this is way back, I don't know, my journey started in 1996, so a few years. Hi, Sylvester. Um, a few years into my journey, I was on a trip to the Big Island, and I was going through sexual healing at that time. And of course, we know the dolphins are very, very loving and sexual beings. So every time I went into the water with them in the mornings, I'd say, teach me about your sexuality. And nothing really happened. So about midway through the trip, I was camping on one of the beaches, and it was time to shut down my campsite. So I had swum with them that morning, and then I was taking down my tent. And halfway through taking down my tent, I was just guided to go to the water. And I stood there and I just watched the dolphins out there. No other swimmers were out there with them. It was just them, but by themselves. And it's like mid-morning, so I don't go out because of the sun. I do early morning, but I felt so strongly, come, come, come. Okay, so I went in, and what do I see? This phenomenal love fest. It was massive. The whole pod was making love, making love, making love, making love. It was like, oh my gosh. And there were four of the dolphins that came really close to me. And they were just partnering right in my field, right in my face, partnering over and over. And I was like, wow. And then as I was watching, this stream of white stuff came floating through, and I think it was sperm. It was just as like, okay, you've shown me everything. You've shown me everything. But what I got from that energetically was, we humans I'll speak for myself, in my sexual life, come with baggage and stories and trauma. When they make love, and they're not monogamous, they make love all, with so many all the time. It's from a place of they're feeling so ecstatic and so much bliss. There's so much energy moving through them that they have to express it. And that's one of the ways that they express it. So that was just a beautiful, 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 beautiful lesson. Class was in session. So that was the one in the water. And then there was a time, again, living in Sedona, I had such a craving to see wildflowers. So my husband and I, David at the time, went up to Colorado to a place, I think it's the wildflower capital, Crestone, Colorado, the wildflower capital of the world. We went up there on July 4th weekend just so I could see the wildflowers. And so we'd be driving along, and we'd pull off onto a logging road and see a field of wildflowers. I'd get out of the car, step foot on the earth, and look at the flowers, and I just burst into tears. All this emotion. And it's like, I don't know what that's about. And then we'd get in the car, we'd go to the next place, I'd get out, step foot on the earth, and burst into tears. When it happened the third time, we were in Telluride, and we were on a trail that was pretty popular. I stepped aside of the trail, and I just looked at the flowers, and I burst into tears. I'm like, what is going on? And the dolphin said to me, we are seeing the world through your eyes. and the beauty of the world. So that really spoke to what you said, Randy, about their observers. And that was just so incredible for me that I'm living my life on land and they're learning through my human earthly experience. It was just beautiful. Yeah.
Beautiful. Mm.
Oh, I really feel that seeing through our eyes. That is incredible. I love it. Wow. Thank you.
Thank you.
And those
Dolphins
dolphins.
are some of the greatest teachers in helping us align with pleasure.
Yes.
That there's a lot of blocks sometimes in the human, you know,
Yes. Yeah,
consortium
totally.
here,
Yeah.
about pleasure, and that, really allowing yourself to feel that, whatever that is for you, the joy
Yes.
ambassadors.
Yes, totally.
So
Good. And so, Lori, I know you've got so many stories as well. We've heard some really incredible stories from Puda, but what is your
hmm,
favorite story?
well, I don't know if I have a favorite. So many stories. Yeah,
Library.
so many. I mean, some of them are so far out that it's still in this particular point in my life. I'm like, how did I do that? Or how did I allow for that? One of the things I can share is that in June, Lorraine and I are creating a retreat called Sacred Sites and Stargates. And,
Yeah.
the consciousness of this has come through Puda, my partner here, Master Cat Puda, to do that. And it takes me back to when she was in an earlier incarnation, which we at that time called Puda 1. That was like 2002, I think, 2003. And she jumped up on the bed, and I was getting ready to travel and to teach a workshop that we had created together called Conscious Creation, basically. It was before the movie The Secret, where people didn't really, it wasn't mainstream yet to understand that you're the creator of your own reality. And I don't know if everybody was really ready to hear that, but that's basically where we were at anyway. So she said, when we set out to pack to get ready for that journey, she said, we should go to the Grand Canyon on the way to Sedona and then some other stops. We were going into Mexico and then into the Midwest and to teach this place, this workshop at different places. And I said, it was coming up to Labor Day weekend, and I said, I don't think you can get, the lodging and stuff at the Grand Canyon in such short notice, and it's expensive, and it's hot, and I don't. She said, well, it's my destiny to go into the canyon, to go absolutely into the canyon. And I'm like, well, I don't really see that happening. You're a little cat. You could fall and hurt yourself. And, I don't align with this. And she said, well, it doesn't really matter if you align with it. The question is, are you going to take me? Because this is my destiny. And we've already talked about that I chose you because you're supposed to do the things I ask you to do so that our relationship can evolve and I can become all I'm supposed to be here. Okay, that will help you become all you're supposed to be here. So are you going to take me or not? I'm trying to make a long story short. So she said, humor me, call Bright Angel and see if you can get a reservation. And Bright Angel's one of the cabins that are rim cabins. It's right on the edge of the South Rim. And so I humored her. I called Bright Angel. And of course, the lady laughed at me on the phone when I told her I wanted the dates for Labor Day weekend. And she said it's a 2-night minimum. And of course, we don't have, I mean, she literally laughed at me. And so then she said, can you hold on just a minute? And then she came back on, interesting, we're getting a cancellation for that exact time that you want to be here for a rim cabin. And, you know, would you like to? I mean, there are other people in line, a waiting list, but since you're on the phone, and Puda's just sitting there cocking her head, smiling and going, do it, get the credit card out, do it. So I followed the path. I made the reservation and we got there and we drove. And that time I was with my boyfriend and 2 other cats that were traveling with us. So as the 5 of us got there, we got in the room and immediately everybody went to sleep. The 3 cats went to bed. My friend Thomas went to bed. And I'm like, here we are. I thought we were going to go in the canyon. And she said, tomorrow. My appointment's tomorrow. I have to sleep now. So I went out and I fell asleep on the grass, looking at the stars. And when I woke up, there was a baby deer sleeping on my leg, his little
Wow.
head on my knee, and the mom was standing right there. And I'm like, wow. And she looked at me and she said, don't hurt my baby. And I said, I never hurt your baby. This is like so sweet. And for anybody that knows, they're very, very tame at the Grand Canyon. They run up and down the rims there, and they actually have to clear the deer off the runway to land the planes. They're so friendly. So anyway, next night we're out there. She says, this is it. As the sun went down, she said, I'll see you in the morning. And she slipped over the edge and it was getting dark and I just tears, I started to cry. But I let her go. I mean, I I don't know if I do that now. I guess I'll have to, right? But she went in, and I spent most of the night playing on the grass with the other two cats and trying to keep myself sane. Long story short, she came up the next morning. The sun was coming up. She climbed up right at the same spot, and her whole body was blue, just glowing with blue light. And she flipped herself in the air and she said, "Okay, I have to go to bed now, but I've been initiated by the Ancient of Days. Our mission has begun." And so I have the greatest respect for the energies, the vortices, the ancient beings there at the canyon. And since that time, now we've probably taken her there at least 10 times. Not to go in the canyon, that was a one time thing, thank God, but certainly to hike it and to go. And over a period of time, I can think of all the times I've gone there and I go out and sit on the edge of the South Rim. I don't know if you know, there's those nice rocks there. And she's sitting next to me, and people just congregate. They just come up, you know. And then people, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "Well, I'm here with my cat. And, I'm an animal communicator." "Well, what is she saying?" And then she starts giving a lecture, you know, and more people are coming, and she's talking, and this is her way, you know. She's a gatherer, as many of your animals are too. Speaking of that, you want to come and be on the camera? There you are. You say hi. Yeah, yeah. So that was a fun trip to the canyon, and we're going back in June, and I don't anticipate her going over the edge, but we'll be there, and also in Sedona, working with the canyons and the elements. So she's a great partner. So much love. She's 17 now, but she acts like a 3-year-old. So what are you going to do? She's got the anti-aging going. She's so wise and so loving, and
And
continues to reincarnate back to me. So we're joyful, you know. I know Linda, you know her. You know, you've known her for a while. Yeah, she's a traveler. Okay, there you go. So thanks
Yeah,
for listening.
one of my trips to the Big Island, I never had extra money lying around to take these trips to Hawaii. And we had lunch. We were having lunch in Sedona, and she said, "You're going to the Big Island." I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess that's all I needed was Puda to tell me I was going to the Big Island. I'll get out that credit card and head to the Big Island."
I don't even remember that. I remember having lunch with you, but she gave you some advice, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
when Puda speaks. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember being in Hawaii with you, Laurie, with Fuda as well, on the boat.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too. I
Yes.
was there.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Well, this cat's done a lot of boat trips in her years, you know. I always pick her up like this so the dolphins can see her, you know, in the whales, and she's wiggling, and the dolphins are coming up. And we had one trip some years ago on the Big Island where the pilot whales came up to the boat, and the captain couldn't believe it because they don't have that type of behavior normally. And was holding her up. I had a cold, so I didn't get in the water that morning, and I was holding her up, and they all lined up like circus horses, and they were talking to her. And I'd never talked to pilot whales before, and they said, "Are you?" And she said, "I'm Seth." That's the name of her soul. You know, that's what we call it. And they said, "Seth, Seth, Seth." They said, how is this possible? How can it be? How is this happening? What are you? And she said, "I'm a cat." And the pilot whale said, "Where are the other cats?" And she said, "They're not on the boat. They're on the land." And they said, "Well, can we go with you?" And she's like, "No, you're in the water and I'm on the land, but I'm visiting you and we can talk. And I know my mom's really enjoying this, so we can keep talking." Amazing. The captain was like, his mouth was hanging open. He said, "Pilot whales don't line up like circus horses." Yeah. But they were enjoying her wisdom, I think, and seeing her in that particular form. But they recognized the energy.
Magic,
It
magic,
is
magic.
magic.
Thank you. Thank you. I know there's so many stories. That's why we're looking forward to our virtual summit next week. Again, we invite everyone to check out the link. I'm going to put that link one more time in our Zoom room. It's on our YouTube channel as well. And we're looking forward for everyone being there. There's also going to be time for questions and answers in that forum. So please join us, sign up, and we are looking forward to seeing you there. Again, everything will be recorded if you can't join all the events live. So you can tune in and be in our energy field at any time. You are part of the group energy field as soon as you make that decision to sign up. And pay attention to your dreams between now and our meeting, because I'm certain you're going to have some things come up. I remember I had a bunny, a very dear bunny. I would sing to it every night. And that's a story I'm going to share in our program. But when I went to Peru on 11/11/11, that bunny came to me in a dream and it was so healing. I couldn't believe all these years had gone by and there's that bunny. And the bunny was saying, I'm here and I'm totally fine. I've always been here. So that is really beautiful as we will all remember our animals, connection with our animals through that dream space as well. And through your intention signing up for this event and being in this collective field of energy. So we're really looking forward to that. So as we say goodbye, I want each one of our beautiful speakers here to say goodbye and maybe share the title or a brief description of what you're going to be sharing in our event. Let's go to Maya, you're first.
To remember my title. So it's animal communication, and it's transforming doubt and confusion to clarity, confidence, and also I forgot the other word. But anyway, it's basically going from doubt and confusion to clarity and confidence. So basically, what are the ideas or to have that happen, and it can happen just like that. Yeah. So I'm going to have everybody feeling their confidence and knowing that they are animal communicators.
We
Yeah.
all are. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
Beautiful. And Randy, how about you? Thank you.
You're welcome. Like I said, I appreciate being able to talk to everybody and hear everybody. Uh, my my talk is going to be on consciousness and communication. So
Beautiful.
it'll
We are one. We are one.
We are.
We
We
are
are.
one. Thank you. And Pia, hi.
Hi. So yeah, so my it's going to be more like a class actually, mine, rather than a talk. It's going to be multifaceted. It's called Discover the Joy of New Consciousness by Partnering with the Animal Kingdom and Nature. And so there will be a short presentation, but then I'm going to be inviting you into communication and for us to be sharing that as well. So it's more like a mini workshop than a talk. I really thrive on experiential. I really thrive on doing it rather than
Yes.
just talking about it. That's why I'm here. So that's why I like it to be a class. So I really hope that you will join me for that, and that we can be communicating with animals and different aspects of nature together.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Debbie, tell us about your presentation. Thank you.
I'm kind of planning to do just a brief talk with everybody and to kind of get us more into the experience of attempting to do the animal communication and receiving it very much like I do, which is a right-brained activity. And so this is non-verbal whenever you go right-brained. And you tend to also expand things such as art, music, your musical abilities, intuition. So it explores more of your ability to problem solve with your right brain structure. And so that's what I'm going to be focusing on mostly with my talk.
Great.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Linda.
Mine's going to be experiential as well. I'll tell a little bit of my story, but it's really about working with the dolphins at the level of consciousness. And in that field, supporting everyone to really coming into our heart space and bringing in that love and that joy and feeling the transformation, the upliftment from that, and some practical ways to keep that alive in life going forward. Because the very first telepathic communication I had with dolphins, I was on a boat and they were surrounding the boat. Everyone went to rush to the boat to see the dolphins, but a, a, a shot of energy poured through my body, gluing me to my spot. And I witnessed myself asking the dolphins, "What are you here to teach us?" And they said unity, community.
Mm,
So my work with them, it's the dolphins are such living examples of living in connection and community so beautifully in physical form. And that's what my work is, trying to bringing that quality of living and connection to our human family. So it's going to be along those lines.
beautiful.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Lori, your presentation too. Share a little bit
Yeah.
about that.
Well, I'm going to present on both days, but I'm going to teach as much as I can in my time frame about how you can do it too. You know, we're all animal communicators. In our natural state, we're all very telepathic. It's not something that's outside of you. And if you can bring that consciousness into your body and let go of any belief system that you cannot do it, it can start to evolve. It happens differently for different people. I've coached people for years, not just on animal communication, but guides and angels too. So a lot of it's activating the pineal gland and connecting it to the heart. So we'll talk about that and how you can empower yourself through practice and first of all, changing your belief system too. First of all, being able to do it. And Puna will be teaching with me. She's an amazing sender. You know, we have two parts to our telepathy. One is sending and one is receiving. And not always are we good at both. So we'll talk about that, about opening both channels to the circle of life. And then in my second presentation, we're going to talk about who the animals really are. Where do they come from? What are their species specific teachings? An example would be cats teach self love. You know, dogs teach unconditional love. And, you know, there's a lot more detail to it. So we'll find out more about who they are, where they're from, and what their plans are if they are willing to share about how they can continue to be a steward for us as we move on this ascension pathway towards higher dimensional living. So it's pretty exciting.
Yes, it's really exciting. And I will be teaching as well my experiences and how we can all use toning to
Mm,
communicate and actually assist the animals. I've got some miraculous stories that I'll share, and then I will help everyone understand more of really how we connect with that toning and really what's going on there, because it really is our deeper connection. Some would say light language. I'm not really speaking words of a light language, but more of the toning. Toning has always been my go-to, and that is my remembrance of Lemuria. And my animals bounded into the room when I had a remembrance of toning and how in this lifetime, I shut down my singing ability because I criticized myself. But I was a singer and I used to sing to the animals. And so we all have this, and it's just helping us to recultivate this connection as well. And it really helps everyone and all the animals. So we are really excited for all of this. Again, this is coming up next weekend. Check out the link and join us. Lori, you are the creator of this, so I want to give you a moment to wrap this up and share any final thoughts.
Well, before I logged on today and I'm sitting here with Master Cat Buddha, she said at the close of the event, can I say a prayer? And I'm like, can I say a prayer and invite everyone to pray with me? So I think we'd like to do that. This is Buddha's peace prayer. She says, I'm calling on people and animals of every faith and tradition all over the world. I'm calling on animals and people both in form and formlessness. I'm calling on their spirit. I'm calling on those that would choose to know healing and the transformative power of that in your life. Embrace that now. May the transformative power of our thoughts, our words, and our prayers fill every human heart, every animal's heart, and Mother Earth's heart, where peace is needed now. So may peace be in our hearts as we join in our collective with our speakers and with those that are listening, and also next weekend. May we share our love with all beings in all places and at all times. May peace prevail on earth. Namaste. I am Master Capulet.
Namaste. So beautiful. Thank you to each of our beautiful, heartfelt speakers, wisdom teachers, wisdom sharers. We so cherish you. And thank you for all our viewers and attendees in this special event. We honor you, and together, this world that we are making by communicating as one. Understanding this level of communication is really changing our world. And I hope that you felt a lifting of your vibration and a recall of your memory in connection with the beautiful animals. I know you are deeply connected with the animals, or you wouldn't be here right now today. So we're excited for this, and I thank all hearts for being here. Namaste. Bye. Blessings, everyone.
This has been a presentation of New Earth One Network, your home for New Earth living. Access information, education, and videos on living from the heart in unity consciousness. Visit newearth1.com.